Great. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another session of Great Shouts. Every fortnight, we come together with the best B2B marketers. We have a member of the team, so we've got a little bit of background from me on our. And then we perfect. Then we discuss it and grill the speaker with kind of questions. This is all live, as you can see, but then we will have it recorded and we'll send it out to everyone in the community. Obviously, people can drop in, bearing in mind what they're interested in. We've got 120 people now part of the community, so growing as always. And I am your host. I'm Ed Davidson. I'm a fractional head of marketing. And today we've got Rachel. Hi there, Rachel. She's going to be talking about everything organic, social. And so over to you, Rachel, if you want to share your screen. You've got 15 minutes to the presentation, and then we'll chip in with questions at the end.
Cool, let's go. Right, I might just need to switch over a second. Okay. So for B2B, social media is top of the funnel. So we're not trying to close sales with organic social. Instead, this kind of marketing is all about increasing visibility, building trust, and educating as well. Now, the educating might be creating content to answer early stage FAQs, or is it, as in my business, is often helping marketers in smaller companies learn how to do a type of tactical marketing themselves, getting them started and providing value before they need the support of an agency. What we need to remember is that in the B2B world, we're still talking to people, human beings, and not entities. So with social media for business, there are some important considerations. Now, first, there's no friendship rules here. A company will have a diverse range of followers that can unfollow in an instant if they don't like what they see or what they read. The next thing is that we have to work a lot harder to bring people into a conversation. So we have to actually ask them to engage with our content. And then we also have B2B organic social media is a bit of a no strings attached communication. So we've got to reach people where they are during their busy days and stop their scroll. So how are the platforms helping us do better social media for business? This month, we've seen the Facebook A/B testing tool rolled out. I don't know if you've had a look yet. You might have seen it pop up in your business page profile. You can access it via the professional tools menu or in the meta planner. And there are 7 metrics that can be selected for comparison. And the test periods can actually be as short as 30 minutes if you want them to be. Now, I'd recommend only pitching one variable against another for the best results. But what we're seeing here is that Facebook is helping business page managers find what works and what gets the most attention. I think for companies that can afford to access good tools, social listening is actually something that's a must. By knowing what is said about our brand, we can adjust the messaging and change perceptions. It also provides an opportunity for marketing and sales to work more closely together and create targeted ABM campaigns. ABM is account-based marketing for anyone that doesn't know the acronym. So on the screen, you can see just a screenshot of the new tool. The 7 metrics are listed there. If you're testing video, you need to test video against video, but then the other types of posts can be tested again against each other, like text and image, etc. Now, over on LinkedIn company pages, the platform is providing post suggestions that align with topics like industry knowledge and the latest at your company. But did you also know that you can create showcase pages for brands, projects, and initiatives under your company name? So I looked at the company page for Zoom, just as an example for today. And on the right-hand side, you've got pages for Zoom Ventures, for Zoom Rooms, and an acquisition that they've got as well. If you treat your company page a bit more like a landing page, you can direct readers to specific information about specific parts of your business whilst you've got their attention. Now, I don't think that Zoom is actually utilizing their showcase pages as well as they could be. But what you want to do is encourage connection and conversation from any LinkedIn showcase pages that you might go on to develop for your companies. Now, I'm sure that you've guessed by the title for today that I wouldn't be talking in depth about likes. You might have heard likes referred to as a bit of a vanity metric. However, any metric can actually be a vanity metric if it's something that can be counted or measured, yet doesn't give a return on investment figure. So, for example, the like count on your Instagram content for the month, it might look really impressive, but it doesn't align to sales. So if sales are an objective, the likes actually don't mean anything at all. Content performance needs accurate measurement to be understood. So by setting metrics and KPIs first, you will know where your successes and your failures are. It sounds really simple, but if, for example, you've got a core business goal of like customer satisfaction, and your team aren't responding quickly and effectively to DMs, then actually you're failing in that area, and that's something that you need to adjust. Now, near the start of the webinar, I did say about engagement and actually stopping the scroll. As I get asked about how to find content ideas and suggestions all the time, I wanted to give you some tips to help with those needed outcomes. So I'm going to focus on Instagram for this, just because it has a really high engagement figure compared to other leading platforms. A third of all of the companies on Instagram are actually B2B. So a good example of a profile that you can have a look at after the session is MailChimp. They have partner takeovers, they showcase new features, they share valuable tips, they do some fun stuff too, and they also profile team members on their stories, which makes the business more personable, but it also helps with talent recruitment. There's a lot of business marketing advice out there which will always say know your audience. Yes, that is super important, but it doesn't tell you what you should be doing and what you're posting, and I find that that's often what people get stuck with. So these are my best tips. I would say utilize all of the post types on any particular platform. So if we're still talking about Instagram, you want to be using your grid, you want to be using stories, and also reels as well. With your reels, get straight in there and tell your audience what the reel is about at the start so that they hang around to watch more of it. Try and aim to show up regularly. So don't leave your grid stagnant for a couple of months. Try and even if there's a few days in between, each particular type of post, you're mixing it up and it's not, every 3 days, for example, that's totally fine. But just be consistent in coming back on and posting new content in a regular manner, whatever works for you. You also want to try and seek engagement with your content. So you don't want to be shouting. Social media is a two-way thing. It's not just one way. Post your message out, sell to people all the time. You need to be asking them to actually interact with the things that you are trying to teach them or post about. And that might be doing things like having polls. When you're utilizing stories, you can put little buttons on there where people can interact and vote for things and all of that interactive content. So have a look and have a play and see if you can get some of that going as well. It works just as well for B2B as it does for B2C. And you want to balance your content types. So I will often talk about the pillars of content, where you've got things like education, building trust, and then you've got your sales content, you've got entertaining content, etc. You can plan, so you've got about an 80-20% balance. So you've got 80%, which is all of the other things apart from sales, and then 20% of posts and content that is sales-led and sales messaging. You might want to also take really meaty pieces of content. So if you've got a really good content strategy on your website and you're blogging regularly and you're producing really in-depth articles or white papers, for example, you can take parts of that pillar content and actually break it down and create posts, probably for a really long time if you've got a big piece of content, to give you lots of snippets of that piece of work and make it work harder for you. And then please make sure that you interact. So I was saying earlier about it being two-way. I think a lot of businesses will forget to actually go on and participate and interact with other companies and other people on the platforms. We're so kind of set in putting our messages out there and posting regularly that actually we forget to go and have a conversation. So that's really, really important with social media, especially, you know, for companies that want to try and engage with their customers through the platforms as well. And then please plan. So I find that with clients that are quite ad hoc about their content, they will suddenly be like, oh my goodness, we've got to post about this, or this is happening next week, and they'll chuck a post up. It might be a bit off brand. It might not be as successful as they want it to be because it hasn't had the time put into it. If you're planning, you can make sure that you're balancing your content across those pillars. You can make sure that you're covering all of the different facilities you've got on a platform, so like stories and reels, etc. And you're scheduling all of that in. But you can also involve team members. So you can bring in other people that might be out with clients, behind the scenes content, and all of that other good stuff that people love to see from a business because it just humanizes it a lot more. And you're not scratching around for last minute content. You'll find that it is much more successful. So that brings me to the end of my slides. Sorry, I probably went a little bit fast there. If you need any more help, then obviously you can follow us on the social media. You can sign up to hear from us via our website, or you can book a consultation if you'd like to. But I'm more than happy to take as many questions as you have right now.
Thank you, Rachel. That was great. Loads of kind of interesting kind of tips in there. And I think it's really fascinating that you kind of focus on Instagram, because I think that's not necessarily where a lot of B2B companies go to.
Yeah.
Often it is just kind of LinkedIn. And I think that's often people's kind of bread and butter. Would you say that there is a kind of natural progression from, say, LinkedIn, getting that set up, having the right kind of engagement that you want, and then moving down to, say, Instagram, and then moving down to TikTok in terms of the way that B2B companies operate? Or do you think there's actually more of an opportunity where people aren't necessarily fishing or operating in?
It's interesting that you say that because that does often happen, but I don't think that's the right way of going about it. I think it's very, very important to think, however new a platform might be, where your audience are sitting and engaging. So if you are aiming at the younger generations, you do need to be on TikTok. You need to find a way to be a B2B brand that's doing well on TikTok, because they are there. You know, if it's organizations that have got really young teams, or anything where there's, like, you know, training and internships and all those kinds of things, then you need to be there. I think if we've been using a platform personally as well for quite a long time, so I think probably a lot of us have been on LinkedIn for many, many years, we become naturally a bit more comfortable in using it for the business sooner. So sometimes you've just got to break down those excuses, I suppose, and get your teams on the platforms where your targets are. That's what you've got to think about.
And in terms of actions of the posts, you kind of said that it's obviously not about likes, but it's about engagements. What do you kind of recommend in terms of next best action off the back of organic posts in that way? You talked about kind of polls, and obviously, you know, platforms are desperate to keep you on there, so you don't necessarily, it's harder to be able to push you off platform. But what kind of actions that you recommend off the back of any level of organic post?
Well, I think we don't spend enough time looking at who's actually engaging with the content. We might say, oh, we've got, 10 comments on a certain post, that's brilliant. But are you then reaching out to those people and saying, come and follow us? On Facebook, you've got that facility. It will say, so-and-so has liked your post. do you want to ask them to follow you? And half the job's done for you. We can do that on other platforms as well. If someone's engaging with your company page on LinkedIn, connect with them. If someone has just found you via a hashtag, for example, on Instagram, and they're commenting and engaging on the content, but they're not following you, ask them to follow you. Take the next step. Try. I think people often, if they're approached in that way, perhaps don't want to say no. So you would hopefully build up your audience.
Makes sense. So Natalie's asked, our decision makings are founders, C-suite, so we've been focusing on attention on LinkedIn. Any tips on how to nurture, engage on that platform? Or maybe we should just do more of that.
LinkedIn, I think, is key to have thought leadership content. So if you can be producing the longer form articles and posts on LinkedIn, as well as the personal profile posts and the company page content, then you'll be covering all bases. If you're very clever and you've got a great strategy and you can connect all of them together in some way by theme or whatever it might be, then I think that would hopefully amplify the results and help you even further. But it's not always easy to do, especially if you've got several people posting on their personal profiles, and obviously you've only got one company page. Does that answer your question? I hope.
Natalie, does that answer your question?
Yeah, great.
Okay. So a good long one here from Tom Hurst. Interested to dig into the most effective way to help B2B startup relaunch their social channels. My starting point would be to initially aim to do one channel well, then build up from there. But interested in Rachel's opinion and following on from her comments earlier. It's a question of priorities. I think that's kind of really very relevant to the guys at Growth Division in terms of startups based on resource, as we can't do everything at once.
Yeah, absolutely. I think doing one of them well, rather than a bit of a scattergun approach and weakness across many platforms, is definitely a wise plan. Don't be afraid to wipe content that already exists. If you want to start up again with your content or your rebranding or whatever it might be, then it's okay to wipe the grid or to delete longer form posts or anything like that and just start again. That's fine. We think everything has to sit there like legacy content, but it doesn't. You can just start afresh. Absolutely no problem.
Yeah, sorry, my wife was just brewing up a kettle in the background. So.
Oh, did you get all the answers you needed?
Yeah, no, that was really helpful. But yeah, just if I may add, just to follow on from that. So yeah, so this is an interesting one where the ICP, they're marketing managers of e-commerce brands, so likely to be millennial or Gen Z. But it's an interesting one because maybe not so much from a social media organic point of view, but certainly from a targeting point of view, there's lots of reasons to be on LinkedIn with our ads. But then with the social side of things, all of the brands that we're working with are obviously very big on Instagram and TikTok.
Right.
And yeah, we're just trying to formulate at the moment a bit of a plan for, I guess, most effective way to relaunch it, as I put in my question. But yeah, just to pick the right one to start with that we can then build from. So what would your view be, bearing in mind that persona? Because my instinct is like, let's start with LinkedIn because we're doing some outreach from people's LinkedIn profiles. We're probably going to do some LinkedIn ads. So the company page is going to look a bit weird if it's still just got 80 followers and 2.5 posts. But at the same time, what the company does means that there are some great stories to tell. And ultimately, the brands that we work with are all much bigger on Instagram and TikTok.
Okay, isn't it? I think it's much harder to grow a company page on LinkedIn than it is to grow an Instagram profile. So, people have to be quite connected with the brand, I feel, to follow a company page. You have the personal connections. You will always grow your personal network at a quicker rate. There's good purpose to having a company page, but I think that if you need wins quicker, then you really should consider the Instagram or TikTok or both, depending on your resource. But The other thing is you mentioned ads on LinkedIn. You'll find that they are more expensive than doing Meta ads. So it just depends on the budget.
Cool. Thanks very much.
The only other thing they're kind of chipping in as well, that something that I've run recently, is thought leadership ads on LinkedIn against an individual's profile, right? So you have a founder who I'm actually working with today. He's got a good level of kind of reach. It's far bigger than their company page, right? And they're quite engaged in the market. His posts are getting a decent level, like, kind of 50, 60 likes, a number of different comments. We've done thought leadership ads against that individual, against that profile, just pouring petrol on the fire, and it's just massively increased the level of engagement and likes. So I think it's relatively new. I think actually another Tom from Growth Division kind of mentioned that in terms of LinkedIn ads. But I suppose it's that combination now of, as you say, like, people normally want to follow people on LinkedIn, but it might be a little bit different from an Instagram perspective, where it's, I suppose, maybe considered a bit more personal, rather than kind of, for companies on Instagram. So there's a bit of different thought process there.
Yeah, no, that sounds like a really interesting approach. And I can really see that amplifying the attention on particular content, that leadership content. So yeah, great idea.
No worries. Tim is asked, using a company page is also an issue for me too. I work quite hard on my personal LinkedIn page, but then I neglect my company one. I suppose I've been a little bit through this. Doesn't seem to be that valuable. I mean, do you think, is there like a bit of a cutoff there in terms of LinkedIn company pages? They've got to be like really powerful. You kind of mentioned, was there on that first Facebook page that showcase pages? Do you think they're better to try and promote those rather than the company page?
Well, you can't have those without having a company page. They're almost like a derivative of those. So that would be, if you've got a company with several brands, you would have a company page, and then you'd have a brand showcase page for each of those, or you might have it for certain projects. So it's not really an either or situation. I wouldn't imagine that a lot of the smaller companies are perhaps doing showcase pages. And I think that actually company pages and showcase pages are quite underutilized. We're kind of fed the information to put on there, put the size, put your turnover, put your address, all of that standard kind of really not interesting stuff. People want to hear what you can do for them and how you're going to make their lives better, and what your products do. If you've got their attention, why would you not be trying to actually serve them some kind of lead magnet, or getting them booked on your next webinar, or perhaps setting up a call or something? They're just not really, a lot of companies aren't taking the next step. It's just their static content and they want it to work for them, but they're not actually trying to make it work for them.
Yeah, it makes sense. What do you think about frequency of posting? So, yeah, I think companies, at least me as an individual, tries to hold myself accountable to at least posting once, right?
Yeah,
try and think about the post. But you have I don't know, the other extreme in terms of the Gary V kind of situation where you're supposed to be posting 3 times a week. Yeah, my view on it is that unless it's really good quality and you're scaling things up, you just end up being ignored, and then the algorithm will show you to less people, and it's actually it's diminishing returns. But yeah, good to know your thoughts on frequency of post.
Yeah, so I always get asked this question whenever I'm doing social media training. It's like, how often should we post? And there's no real, golden answer here that's going to solve everyone's problems. It's different per platform, it's different per company, it's different on resource that you've got available. You don't want to be posting for posting's sake. That's very weak content. It's not going to serve you well. On LinkedIn, I find, I don't know about you guys, it'd be interesting to hear actually, that I think there's a bit more longevity of content. So you would perhaps post something on your personal profile, for example, and still be getting people seeing it for the first time a couple of weeks later. Whereas on Instagram, it's long gone. The people have moved on, there's other things happening, and it's not in the newsfeed anymore. So it's platform relevant, depends what we're talking about. And it also depends on, again, your target audience. If they are companies that are really, really active themselves, you can see that they've got so dedicated social media resource, they might be interacting with your content a lot more because they've got someone that is able to be on there engaging. Whereas if they're perhaps a smaller company and they've got, they're paying for a freelancer's time, they're mainly going to be putting out stuff and they're not doing as much of the engagement. So there's loads of variables here. It's a bit of trial and error, like a lot of marketing, but just see what works. But I would say, make sure that it's great content and don't just post because it's Wednesday at 10 a.m. and you really should post.
I think we've all felt a bit guilty of that. You haven't posted. What, in terms of the split between your individual kind of post on your own profile, your company profile, and then posting on other people's comments? What's your thoughts on that? Because I think sometimes you can actually get far more visibility if you're doing something meaningful, posting off the back of somebody who's got a huge amount of following and it's really adding to the conversation, than potentially posting to your own network if it doesn't have the same level of reach.
Yeah, I mean, again, you want a combination. It's not really an either or. A lot of people will say, "I'll spend an hour each day doing the engagement side," but we don't all have that time. We've got lots of other things to do. So it depends what time you've got. But I do see that people they do become more visible when they're adding valuable contributions, and you'll probably have noticed that actually LinkedIn are encouraging those kinds of professional opinions in pieces they're creating as well at the moment. Some of you might have had invitations from LinkedIn to actually contribute to a piece in a conversation, so they're obviously seeing value in it as well. So that says a lot to me. If they're trying to encourage people to do it, then it's something that works in your favor. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the social selling index on LinkedIn. It is part of the Sales Navigator tool, but you can actually access your score for free. If anybody wants the link, just give me a shout. But you can just go on and it will tell you how you're doing, basically. And if you need to, be a bit more responsive, if you need to post a bit more, if you need to engage a bit more and things, and you can bring that up. And the whole idea is that actually the people that have higher scores and are standing out in their industries are supposed to benefit from more leads and more connections and all of the good stuff that we're there for. So it might be worth a look.
Yeah, good show. So last one from me, just I suppose around kind of video content. Do you think that that's a kind of important step to be able to have kind of more engagement, despite stopping people in the feed, as you said? And what are the kind of topics that you think that are most relevant outside of being a talking head?
Well, yes, video is very, very important, and we can utilize it on all of the different platforms, of course. If you have ever done any work on, I know this isn't social media, but on Amazon, they have got very, very strong advice on how to stop the scroll within a product kind of newsfeed, as it were. So you've got all of your results. They're encouraging particular types of real standout ads that are doing almost like crazy things, something that just makes people go, "What's that?" and stops that scroll. So we really need to try and take that approach and those ideas with our video through maybe some animation or other tools into our video content for whatever platform it might be, and it not just be those sort of generic starts. It's getting harder and harder, obviously, because more and more people are creating video content because that's what the algorithms want. But that would be my advice, to try and sort of think, for want of a better term, a bit out of the box and get someone's attention within that first second. I think part of the reason that we love video so much at the moment is because of that laziness we've got. We don't want to sit and read long things anymore. And it's got so bad that actually we don't really want to sit and read long posts anymore. We just kind of want it fed to us. We want that doom scroll approach. So yeah, that's what I would say about video.
It's all about stopping the scroll, isn't it?
Yeah.
We are at time. Always try and keep these sessions to 30 minutes. Bang on. Yeah. So we're there. Thank you so much, Rachel. Really great content. And thank you so much for everyone that attended. As usual, I will post this out on the YouTube channel. Okay, thanks a lot. See everyone in a fortnight. Bye now.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thanks.